Congressman, thanks very much for joining us. Good
Great
to
to
see you
be back with you, Carl.
Welcome to the 2012 campaign trail, officially from Fox and me. And I told you I thought I'd see you here eventually. You didn't believe it when I said about a year ago that this would be you.
No, I didn't actually. You're a good prognosticator.
So now that you've been out for a whole week, are you experienced enough to step into the Oval in the case Mr. Romney can't finish the job?
Mitt Romney would not have selected me to be his running mate if that wasn't the case. I would not have accepted his invitation to join the ticket if that was not the case.
You know that here at the Villages, everybody's looking at him and saying, he's so young,
I know.
He's so young. 42 makes you even younger than President Obama when he took over.
Well, I've been in Congress for 14 years. I've been involved in working on leading this country to get us back to work, get our budget balanced, and get this debt under control. And I'm excited to join the Romney-Ryan ticket because Mitt Romney is providing leadership that is sorely needed to get people back to work, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
You made your Medicare pitch here to the folks. You moved the rope line. Tell us what they said. Are they persuaded that you won't end Medicare as we know it, as Democrats say?
Yeah, well, that was rated the lie of the year last year by PolitiFact. People are going to see through all of this. Look, the president can't run on his record. It's a bad record. The president raided $716 billion from Medicare to pay for Obamacare. So that's a record the president doesn't want to talk about. So that's why I think he's resorted to a campaign not of hope and change anymore, but blame, attack, smear, fear. And I don't think people are going to see through this. I think the positive vision that we are offering the country to get people back to work, to shore up Medicare, are the kinds of things that people are going to vote for this fall, because I don't think they're going to accept the failed leadership they've seen for the last 4 years.
The incumbent opposition says, wait a minute, Paul Ryan talked about taking $700 billion plus out of Medicare in terms of ending waste, fraud, and abuse and streamlining programs. So sounds hypocritical to them.
We voted repeatedly in the House, before and after the budget, to repeal all of Obamacare, including this raid on the Medicare program.
The Democrats argue that your first proposal would have completely changed Medicare as we know it by replacing it with the pay-for-service voucher program, as they dub it. Now it's an alternate. Now it's a choice. Walk us through the process of changing it, because Mr. Romney objected to the first one, and because it wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
Was that what changed your mind?
Well, Mitt Romney came out with his Medicare reform plan first, before we did in the House. But as we got into looking at this issue, talking with Democrats, it evolved to be a plan that is now bipartisan. This Medicare reform plan originated in the Clinton Bipartisan Commission to Save Medicare. It's a bill with bipartisan support, a proposal with bipartisan support in Congress today. And what Mitt Romney is talking about is making sure that we keep the Medicare program intact for people who are in or near retirement, and preventing this raid that President Obama has put on the program to pay for Obamacare. By repealing Obamacare, we can restore Medicare. And also, we are offering a bipartisan solution to make sure it's there for future retirees when they retire.
Is it not the case, though, that there are some things that Republicans are now proposing that they opposed in the past, and that Democrats are now proposing things that they opposed in the past? There's a little bit of each side.
Well, there's a lot to sort through. Look, we're offering leadership. We're offering solutions. The president is not. The president has a failed economic agenda. 23 million people are still looking for work. You've got 1 in 6 people in poverty today. Unemployment has been above 8% for 42 months. It's not a record he can run on, and that's why he's, basically relegated his campaign to division, frustration, and anger. We're offering solutions, and the kinds of solutions we're offering have origins from bipartisan commissions like the Medicare Commission that Clinton set up in 1999. The tax reforms we're talking about, get rid of loopholes, lower the rates, create jobs.
President Obama called that fairy dust today, saying it's more trickle-down Republican promises of the past that didn't work. Fairy dust.
Look, I think the president's going to keep trying to divide people in this campaign to try and score points to win this election. It's not going to work. The economy's not growing like it needs to. What Mitt Romney and I are proposing is to plug those special interest loopholes that make everybody else's tax rates higher so that we can lower tax rates for everyone. Small businesses, families, that's how you create jobs. Tax reform that is a tax system that's simple, fair, and competitive is one of the key ingredients to create economic growth and job creation, and it's part of the Mitt Romney's plan for a stronger middle class.
Democrats try to attack your integrity on this by saying that, well, although you said you opposed the stimulus package, you signed a couple of letters asking for stimulus projects, and that therefore you were against it while you were for it, and for it while you were against it. Can you clear that up?
Sure. So my office sends tens of thousands of letters to various federal agencies. This went through what we call my casework system, where it was treated as a casework request for constituents. I take full responsibility for it. It wasn't my intention to send letters supporting stimulus, but this doesn't change the fact that the stimulus was a bomb. It didn't work. It was a boondoggle. Borrowing and spending money on things like Solyndra, that does not create jobs.
I want to make sure I understand the distinction here, because in the past there have been Republicans who said, look, I'm against earmarks, but if this bill is going to pass with earmarks in it, I'm going to bring home some for mine.
Right, so I didn't know about those letters until very recently when they were brought to my attention, because they went through our constituent casework system. I take full responsibility for that. The point I'm trying to make is the stimulus was a failure. It was the president promised that stimulus, if it was passed, would prevent unemployment from getting ever above 8%. It's been above 8% for 42 months. It was borrowing, spending, and giving out to cronies like Solyndra. That did not work to create jobs. And meanwhile, we have economic stagnation. And that's why the Romney-Ryan plan for a stronger middle class are the kinds of things you need to do to create jobs. Higher take-home pay, more jobs, faster economic growth. So we're offering solutions. And the reason the stimulus didn't work, as I mentioned at the time it passed, was it's bad economics. It doesn't work. All these boondoggles coming out of Washington is not a way to grow the economy. If borrowing and spending and taxing and regulating were the secret to economic growth, America would be entering a golden age along with Greece.
Even Democrats begrudgingly give you props for being a budget wonk, and we've talked over the years. I remember you talking about how when you were a kid you used to read budgets because you were a numbers nerd.
Yeah.
So the deficit in the Ryan portfolio obviously is the foreign policy stuff. So quickly, Syria, civilians getting wiped out, Aleppo in serious trouble.
Right.
What's wrong with the president's policy?
Well, I think he was late to it. I think he was late to speak forcefully to pronounce our values. Bashar Assad is butchering his own people. And so I think we were late to helping the opposition do what they need to do to get this dictator out of there. The way I would say about foreign policy is, I've been in Congress for a number of years. That's more experience than Barack Obama had when he came into office. I've voted to send people to war.
What would you say to Russia and China in their refusal on the UN Security Council to actually impose some serious sanctions on Assad now?
Well, this is a testament of the fact that the reset with Russia was a failure. Our relationship with Russia is weaker, not stronger. Look at what the frustrations we're getting at the Security Council from Russia to begin with. So I think this is a testament of the fact that the Obama strategy of this Russia reset hasn't worked. And I share the philosophy with Mitt Romney that we need to have strong relationships with our allies. Our adversaries need to know that we have strong resolve, and we adopt the philosophy of peace through strength, strong national defense. That's the kind of foreign policy posture we need to have a strong America, and we think President Obama's foreign policy has really hollowed that out.
Is it feasible to twist China's arms either on Syria or just on trade when they hold so much of our debt?
Well, that's part of the problem. China holds so much of our debt. 40 cents of every dollar that government spends today is borrowed money. Almost half of that money is borrowed from foreign countries. So because of the president's agenda of big deficits, trillion-dollar deficits every year, because of the president's agenda of not even offering a plan to get this deficit under control, the Senate hasn't passed a budget in 3 years. That makes us more dependent upon China to float their bonds. We need to get spending under control. We need to get this deficit under control so we're more independent as a country, because the more we rely on countries like China to cash flow our government and our deficits, the less clout we have on foreign policy. China's been stealing our intellectual property. They're denying access to their markets for our products. We need to be firm, we need to be strong, and we need to operate from a position of strength. And when we keep relying on all these other governments to lend us their money, that makes it hard for us to be a strong nation.
One of the things you've been questioned on is then why now support the Romney position for tougher clampdowns on China, when in the past you've frankly been reluctant about it and said, well, maybe that's not the way to do business with them because they hold so much of our debt.
Well, that was never the reason. I've always been a free trader, and I believe free trade is necessary for peace and prosperity, but it also has to be fair trade. And I've always been a strong advocate of making sure that we hold our trading partners to account when they're not giving us fair reciprocal treatment like we give them. So to me, this is perfectly consistent with what I've always believed, what the kind of leadership Mitt Romney's offering, which is if our trading partners aren't holding up their end of the bargain, you have to hold them to account. That's what Mitt Romney's proposing.
What's the biggest thing that surprised you in the last 7 days of being the running mate?
These crowds are huge. They're enormous. The enthusiasm, I'm getting more energy out of this. So it's very exciting. And you know what? Mitt and Ann have been so gracious with our family. That's been really something. We have, young kids. You've seen my kids. He has young grandkids. Our grandkids, his grandkids and my kids have bonded. And so I've just been really, Jan and I are just really delighted at how they've opened up their arms into their family, and they've just been really gracious.
Having been the budget chairman, a leader, as you've been called, the ideological, intellectual scion of the new Republican Party, how do you now fold all these sort of groundbreaking positions you've been into under the Romney rubric? Are you shoehorning stuff in there because you've obviously had to adjust to be his running mate? Talk about the transition, just emotionally, intellectually. You've been going with no sleep and few meals and run. Go ahead.
Well, look, I'm joining the Romney-Ryan ticket, and the reason Mitt Romney asked me to join the ticket is because he said, you share my values, and you have the kind of experience that complements my experience to get things done, to execute. What Mitt Romney have done throughout our careers is we've applied the same principles to solving problems. I'm excited to follow his lead, to be on his team, and pursue an agenda where we obviously agree on. The huge difference here is between the Romney-Ryan vision, the plan for a strong middle class, and the Obama vision, which is more government, more regulations, more taxing, more spending, more deficits, more debt, less jobs, more of the same. We're not going to stand for that. We're going to give the country a very clear choice. Here's how you get people back to work. Here's how you get people out of poverty. Here's how you get American idea back on track. Here's how you keep the country strong.
Joe Biden's been in Congress and in Washington a heck of a lot longer than you are. How are you prepping for the big square-off debate with him?
I've known Joe a long time. We've always gotten along. I've been doing this for a while myself. And in the House, you do a lot of debates. We debate daily with each other, more than they do in the Senate.
So you think you got him pretty much on the map?
Oh, hey, no. Look, I don't look at it like that way. I'm eager to have this conversation. This is a very clear choice of two futures. The contrast couldn't be brighter, and I'm excited about highlighting those things.
Do you get ticked off by being called a radical extremist? I mean, you're always kind of upbeat and positive.
I'm a happy person. I don't really get that angry. I have that kind of a demeanor. I'm used to this.
Paul Ryan, on the trail in the villages. Good to see you here.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Carl.